Why the EU's top court have permitted employers to ban headscarves at work. The headscarf has been at the center of controversy and debate in Europe for years. In several countries, courts have been able to impose restrictions on donning religious symbols or garb in the workplace as well as in public spaces. Last week, the European Union's highest court reaffirmed that companies in Europe can forbid women from wearing headscarves to work, a ruling that led to widespread condemnation from human rights activists and Muslim nations for appeasing Islamophobia. The decision by the European Court of Justice on headscarf in the workplace is another blow to the rights of Muslim women with headscarves and will play right into the hands of those warmongers against Islam in Europe. Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's spokesman Ibrahim Kalin tweeted on Sunday, "The Luxembourg-based European Court of Justice ruling was not limited to headscarves alone. It applies to all visible symbols of religious and political belief." The court said the bloc's 27 member states will have to justify whether there is a genuine need on the part of the employer to ban these religious makers. What led to the latest ruling by the European Court of Justice? The ruling was based on separate cases brought to the court by two German Muslim women who were suspended for their jobs for wearing hijabs. Both women, one of whom worked at a child care center in Hamburg, while the other was a cashier at a pharmacy, were not wearing headscarves when they started working for their respective employers. They adopted hijabs after coming back from parental leave. According to court documents, both women were told that donning the headscarf was not permitted. The child care center employee was suspended twice after she refused to take off her headscarf, while the pharmacy worker was transferred to a less visible post where she did not have to interact with customers as much. The court said company policies barring workers from wearing visible form of expression of political, philosophical or religious belief in the workplace did not qualify as direct discrimination as long as the same rule applies to religious symbols and garb across faiths. In both cases, the German courts will finally have to decide whether women have been discriminated against. Significantly, over 5 million Muslims live in Germany, making them the largest religious minority in the country. But the headscarf debate in Europe far predates the ECJ's latest ruling. A number of cases just like these two have been heard, a majority of which were filed by applicants for positions as teachers at public schools and judges at courts. The court laid that employers need to show a genuine need for the ban. This could be the legitimate wishes of the customers or to present a neutral image towards customers or to prevent social disputes. However, that justification must correspond to a genuine need on the part of the employer and in reconciling the rights and interests at issue. The national courts may take into account the specific context of their member state and in particular more favorable national provisions on the protection of freedom of religion. What was the ECJ's previous stance on headscarves? The headscarf have been at the center of controversy and debate in Europe for years. In fact, the ECJ's latest ruling is based on a similar decision it made in 2017. Then the EU court had said that the companies may ban staff from wearing any visible religious symbols including headscarves under specific. In 2017, the EU court had said the companies may ban staff from wearing any visible religious symbols including headscarf under specific conditions. At the time, too, the religious sparked a huge outcry among activists and the Muslim world. The debate around headscarves in Europe. Over the years across Europe, many courts have been able to impose restrictions on donning religious symbols on or garb in the workplace as well as public spaces such as parks. France, for instance, prohibited the wearing of hijabs in state schools in 2004. Then in 2014, the country's top court upheld the dismissal of a Muslim daycare worker for wearing a headscarf at a private school where religious neutrality was demanded from all of its employees. More recently, the French Senate controversial anti-separatism bill sparked widespread protest with critics denouncing it for singling out the Muslim community. As part of its proposed initiative to help promote secularism, the Senate seeks to impose a ban on girls under 18 wearing the hijab in public. The hashtag hands off my hijab was shared widely on social media for several weeks. Countries such as Belgium, Austria, and the Netherlands have also passed laws that ban full face covering wheels in public places. However, the hijab, which covers just the shoulders and head, is not included in these bans, but Austria's constitutional court notably ruled that a law which banned girls under the age of 10 from wearing headscarves in schools was discriminatory. In 2016, German Chancellor Angela Merkel said the wearing of full face veils should be prohibited wherever it is legally possible. How have countries reacted to the headscarf ban? Among the loudest voices opposing the ECG's ruling are Turkey's cabinet minister. It prompted President Erdogan's spokesperson Ibrahim Kalin to ask on Twitter, does the concept of religious freedom now exclude Muslims? In an article condemning the court's ruling, international NGO Human Rights Watch pointed out that the argument rested on the flawed notion that a client's objection to employee wearing a religious dress can legitimately trump employees' rights. Thank you.